let's start at the beginning. I want to find out where that first moment was where you were like, you got the call, like, comedy is for me. And Julia, you were talking about that.
Well, I guess I have. I mean, I had certain moments, I guess, when I was a kid when I realized I was funny. Like, I would tell jokes in class. So, I mean, I guess that was really the beginning. But then I moved to LA in 1981, and I became to be an accountant. That was my dream, to be an accountant in the film industry, and I achieved my dream. And I worked at Columbia Pictures, and then I got depressed, and I didn't think it was really right for me, and I started taking classes. And one of the classes I took before I discovered the Groundlings, which is sort of like Second City. It's an improv place in LA. But before that, I took just a straight up, just an acting show business class, and we did scenes, and people would laugh when I did my part. But it was a dramatic part, but they were laughing. And so that was like, oh, maybe I should be funny. And then I went to the Groundlings and started taking classes. And then immediately that was so right for me that I changed my whole life. It was actually really a life-changing thing. Like after the first, I would say 3 or 4 classes at the Groundlings, I had a plan for quitting my job. And I mean, there were many stutter steps along the way till I could earn a living. But I knew what I wanted to do just from the classes.
Excellent. How about you, Amy?
You know, I have been a really awkwardly tall person almost my whole life. I pretty much just stopped growing when I was about 13, and so I was in middle school and awkward, and you know, everybody's kind of a jerk in middle school anyway, right? And so that was my way to make friends, was to be like funny. But I was always a ham. I was always kind of like a ham it up sort of kid, in a weird way, in that I was really shy to just talk to people. But if I was like screwing around or putting on a show or something like that, then I could open up. My dad gave me a typewriter when I was about 7, because I used to make like a little newspaper and write little, basically like write sides from a script with pencil and ruler, and he gave me this typewriter, and then he gave me like carbon paper to up my production. Woo, right? And I have that typewriter tattooed on my shoulder now. If you Google, you can see a picture of it. It's in a book about literary tattoos. But to me, it was just kind of always a way to soothe things, a way to find common ground, and a way to soothe things. And I think my thing is sort of gallows comedy, because I really think like sometimes there's just really heavy stuff on us, and it's so soothing and therapeutic and helpful to find joy in it and find comedy in it, because there's comedy in almost everything. So to me, it's sort of, I don't know if there was one moment per se, but there was lots and lots of moments. But I also, in college, I took an acting class because I thought it would be useful and good for me or something, and immediately got put. I was cast as Morgan Le Fay in Camelot, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And I ended up doing lots of really fun stuff, and they had just done Peter Pan, so they had this harness, and like I was flying around, and it was really cool. And I was like, so this stuff is sort of fun. So, but I liked that I was able to cut up a little, and I was like ad-libbing in the middle of Camelot, which is discouraged, but it worked out. So it was. So to me, it felt like a cool permission slip, but also like an inroad and a common ground, like a soothing a soothing way into a lot of conversations.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, 2 things that are completely intertwined are politics and comedy, and we definitely need some soothing in that arena. So, and one of the things we started talking about was comedy for a cause, or comedy that has a purposeful impact. So you talked about it, connecting you to other people and bridging the gap and helping in tough situations. Like, where have you found comedy as a tool?
I don't know. I really don't even think of comedy as a tool. I just think things are funny. I guess I just think, I don't really think of it as necessarily useful, except that it's just really funny. And I think it is, I don't know, I guess I don't think of it like that. I don't think, I'm going to use humor here. I guess I see things there. Life seems so absurd. Almost like from the moment you wake up till you go to bed, there's hilarious things are happening all the time. And so I guess when I write, it really has, like, my monologues all started just from conversations of me telling people what happened to me that day, and then me realizing that I could put it together as a show, that there was a narrative arc to it. But I didn't think I'm using humor, and maybe that's because I'm not deep enough to understand that's what I'm doing, but I didn't think of it as using humor. I just thought of it as a story that was funny. And to me, the funniest stories are also, this also includes a lot of the saddest stuff that happens. And it's not because I'm trying to take away from the sadness, it's just that it seems like the most poignant, difficult things in life are always accompanied by a lot of really funny stuff. And so, I don't know, yeah.
I think sometimes it helps us get out of our own way. One of the best pieces of writing advice I ever got, and I use this all the time with my students that I've had over the years, is give yourself permission to just write the shittiest scene you can possibly think of, like the absolute worst scene, and it does magical things to your brain where you get out of your own way instead of just sitting there going, okay, what's funny? What do I write right away? What's funny, or what's good, or what's smart, or what do I, like, you'll drive yourself crazy and it won't be genuine and it won't be from this real place. But if you give yourself permission to suck, then you're allowed to thrive, and great things can come out that I think are more truthful, and they can land really well and really poignantly, I think.
Yeah, I feel like everybody is so excited about being the best and being better and doing this and like over bigging their life that they forget how necessary the permission to suck is. Like, if you wake up every day saying, I'm going to suck today, then you're not going to, you're not going to be let down.
Or just say, it's okay if I do.
It's okay to suck. Right. Not I'm going to suck. But
damn it, I'm going to be terrible. No, it's okay to just put whatever's on the page that's happening right now. And it might lead me to somewhere good, or it might not.
Right.
But I'm going to get it down today. Exactly.
It's sort of like, what's the phrase? Like, you want to do something so well that you're willing to fail at it. You have to do it. Right.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
I'm willing to do this badly because I love it so much. I'm willing to.
Oh yeah, I definitely felt that way about comedy. When I got to the Groundlings, I was really not good, and I flunked the first class. They made me repeat beginners.
How do you flunk? How do you flunk comedy? How did what?
Well, I didn't. First of all, I had really no theater experience. I didn't even really understand how you were supposed to face the audience. I was really. So I, like a lot of the other people, had a lot more experience just being on a stage than I did, so I thought that hurt me. But also, I didn't understand. I guess I had to learn what comedy was. Like, I thought of comedy. Well, I guess I was funny, but I didn't understand how I was funny. And I thought of comedy in an intellectual way, like it was about wit or clever lines, which is also funny. But it isn't really my favorite kind of comedy. My favorite kind of comedy is two characters together who have different aims, and you can just see in advance how bad it is those two characters are being together, and it really isn't about them saying anything funny. It's about the absurdity of their situation. So there's a long education for me to understand, like in improv, that's how I could bring comedy, by really committing to a character who is determined to do something, and then dealing with the obstacles along the way would bring a lot more humor than me think of something clever to say, like that.
So how long did you, I think there's this myth that like you walked out of the womb, telling practical jokes, and obviously that's not true. So how long did you have to be in that space of, gosh, I really don't feel like I'm good at this, before you felt like, oh, no,
Well, I think it's a combination. Like, in some ways, I do meet people, and I can tell by the way they're talking about comedy that they should not go into comedy. Like, there is something, I think, that is true, that is about how you see the world, that is there or not. And I don't know if you can teach it, but I also know. And I think I always had that. I had a kind of funny, absurd way of looking at the world, but I didn't know how to use it. It was like I didn't know how to drive that car until I took Groundlings classes and learned the rules of comedy. Like you learn, there's actual rules and rules of improv and changing the stage picture or adding information or certain ways to commit to a character, or the whole yes and thing. Like there's a lot of techniques that you can learn, I think. If you have a bent of being funny, if you see the world in that way, then you can learn these things that will really help. So it took me a long time to learn those rules. But then by the time I was in the second year of the Groundlings classes, it was a really funny feeling. It was like, I know I can be good at this, and I know I'm not good at it now, but I know I can be good at it. It was just this feeling, the certainty of that.
Wow. I love that, because it's a different brand of confidence. It's like this knowing brand of confidence versus having, you don't have any data yet, but you just know.
I mean, I didn't think I would necessarily be great, but I knew I could be good if I stuck with it, if I really kept going at it. And yeah, it was a different feeling. Yeah.
So tell us about, whoever wants to start can start, about your creative process, like your comic creative process. Let's see. Everybody out there wants to take notes, and like know exactly how to do it.
I don't know. Like the biggest things I've worked on, I've worked on these monologues about my personal life that started with things that happened to me that I thought were funny, or I went through a big change of attitude about a certain subject, or I had cancer, my brother had cancer, like either things happened or I had a change of view that was dramatic, that changed my life, and I wanted to talk about it. Or motherhood was a big thing for me, talking about that. But then, like, this screenplay that I've been working on for many years now, just came from me trying to think of something I could shoot in my house that, so it would be inexpensive, that would be something that would take place in a suburb of Chicago, and I wanted to put my characters in really tense, awkward situations where they couldn't really freak out because they had, say, a lot of family visiting, or there was a graduation happening, and yet there were internal things happening to them that were really excruciating, and decisions that had to be made, in the middle of the night when people weren't hearing you argue with your husband or whatever like that. So I liked that idea. Like, it felt dramatic to me. And so that's how I came up with that one.
I like it. So do you have like a creative habit around it? Like do you set deadlines for yourself?
Yes,
do you
and
write
I break
every day,
everything, and I don't do anything. I'm the worst. I really have a taskmaster that lives inside of me that is very disappointed in myself. But right now, I'm trying to really not have goals. That's my new goal. No goals. Okay, and no, I'm trying to have habits. So right now, it seems so tiny. It's embarrassing to say it.
Say it. Nobody's going to tell anybody.
I try to just write an hour, concentrated, Monday through Friday, with no internet. I call it my power hour. I have to work an hour. And I say I have to, and then I don't do it. But I try to do it. And to me, even though I know writers, I have a lot of friends who are writers who write hours a day and have such a beautiful discipline. And I don't have a beautiful discipline. I'm really haphazard. I'm all over the place. I like to do so much research that I never actually write anything. I like to write something and change it a million ways. But so for me and my issues having to corral my own personality that I have with myself, an hour a day, Monday through Friday, is really a big achievement.
It's a huge. How many out there?
You get things done. I get things done.
Seriously.
Things get done.
I'm not writing an hour a day. Is anybody who's writing an hour a day?
And I'll tell you a secret.
Like,
sometimes it can go down to 30 minutes.
That's fine. You could do a power minute.
That.
A power minute from you would be amazing.
No, it's really, well, I don't know about a minute, but maybe even a minute. But I think if you keep thinking of it like a big thing, like I'm going to write every day from 9 to noon, that's just never going to happen. But if you think, I don't get to eat lunch until I just do 1 hour, and I'm going to turn off, because I use Freedom, that thing on the internet that takes your internet away from you. And I also write longhand a lot. And that's been success. I've been able to complete things doing that.
Okay, so setting a segment of time to do it, making you wait for lunch, that's another way that you get yourself to write. Those are and take away my internet. Basically take away all my necessities, so I must write. Yeah. And write in longhand.
And there's some days where I just sit there and look at the page too, and don't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's terrible and excruciating and miserable and horrible. Yeah.
And be miserable and horrible. What about you, Amy?
Mine is similar. I also have a like I'm gonna write every day, and I should put a time on it. I don't have a time. I just go, I'm gonna write, and then it's just, to me, it's just starting. Because once it gets started, it's fine. But oh boy, I got to clean that sink, and I got to do that. Oh my God, and I haven't checked the mail in 2 days. I better go downstairs. Like, crap gets in the way. So I also aim for writing every day, and longhand. That is really a big one to me. I got hit in the eye. I was just like pulling something out of a cabinet, and it like whipped up and hit me in the eye a few years ago, and I went, like, it was not pretty. It was really bad. And this eye doctor was like, okay, you got to not look at a screen or be under a fluorescent light for 48 hours. And I'm like, are you familiar with the modern world, sir? That is not a thing we do. But nonetheless, he was like, here's the thing. It's like, imagine breaking your elbow and then like going and like doing curls with a weight. It's going to get worse. You've got to take this seriously or you're looking at surgery. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I sent everybody a text, and I like updated Twitter and Facebook saying like, I will not be here for 48 hours. I'll try to tweet with Siri or something. I don't know what's going to happen. And I climbed the walls for like 8 hours because we look at our phones all the time. And then I took a nap, and when I woke up, my brain was like a new brain. And it was really kind of scary to me what it did with the absence of screens for 48 hours. So I was like, you know what? I have a book that's been sitting on my nightstand for like 4 years. I'm going to read that book. And I like started looking at this book, and I got like 4 pages in, and suddenly I like pull out a legal pad and I start writing all this stuff because I had this idea, and that became a thing. Before it's all over, it was a little bit manic, but I had crap taped up, and I was like Post-its everywhere, and I had all these great ideas. And in fact, the project that I'm in production on right now, that like started to kind of come together during that time. And it was just weird to me how my brain did with writing longhand. So I try to write longhand every day, and if it's just like, Dear Diary, I hate everybody. The election is bad. The end. Thanks. Bye. Like whatever that is, I try to get something down longhand. And I've been a journaler for most of my life, but I have for a while had switched that to a Word doc, and I switched it back to books.
Oh yes, no writing.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read any Julia Cameron, but like she's all about the morning pages, which at first, I'm telling you, that the Artist's Way book is so funny because you'll encounter it, I think, 4 times in your life before you read it, and you're like, oh, yeah. But you like, I kept running into it and going, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and like read a little, but then one day it like, bah. And
that book changed my life.
Yeah, it
like,
really
that changed
did.
my life. I would say, if you had to name the top, because I started doing the morning pages.
Yeah.
This is like 25 years ago.
Totally.
And I still do it, not every day, but I would say 3 or 4 days a week I do it.
It's life-changing to do the morning pages.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
It actually is. If anybody hasn't read that book, go out
good.
and Julia
And also
will
that
thank
got
us.
me into the longhand writing too.
And dates with myself.
Oh yes, the dates with yourself are the
Artist
best.
dates are the best.
Artist
Yes,
dates. Sorry, honey, I'm on an artist date. So speaking, you touched on it. The project that you're working on, the film that you're working on. Do you want to tell everybody about it?
Yes, sure. So right now I'm working on an episodic documentary about women and online harassment. It is not that funny. In fact, sometimes it's really a downer. But I have a rule in life, and that is that if you catch yourself saying, you know what, someone's really got to do something about X, then that someone should be you. That's my rule. And a lot of things happen kind of all at once, and there's a lot going on in the comedy world with women and safety and mental health. That has been on my radar for a long time. Then one night on the radio, I said a really innocuous thing. I said, we were talking, it was like right after Thanksgiving, before Christmas, around that time, somebody said, well, I'm Jewish, and they were like, Merry Christmas, or whatever, however you say that in Jewish. And I'm like, thank you for the sentiment. Happy holidays will do. And we like had this little back and forth. So I ended up saying, and it was like a funny, friendly back and forth, but I said, hey, look, my policy is, if you don't know what someone celebrates, just say happy holidays. Doesn't cost you anything to be inclusive. That's all I said. A few weeks later, a men's rights activist forum surfaced where that one little phrase had been, suddenly I was like this feminist voice that needed to be blotted out, removed off the earth. And I was doxxed, which if you don't know what that means, it means private information is shared about you. So it was like, here's her address, here's where she banks, here's who holds her mortgage, here's the hours that she keeps, here's the door she goes in at the Tribune to go into the radio station, here's her phone number, here's all this stuff. Get the bitch. And I was like, well, that's not okay. That's not illegal. And including like a 2-week-long description of like the sexual assault that needed to happen to me to silence me. Like, also not illegal. So the cops did nothing. That was frustrating. At the same time that happened, I do work at the Op-Ed Project, where the aim is to increase the diversity of voice in the public narrative. And so I'm working with people, some of which literally have life-saving information in their heads. And I was, seeing them write really powerful op-eds or appear on like Sunday morning talking head shows, and I would help them and prep them and get them ready and give them media training and help them with their op-eds. And they would get there, and the result they would be trolled so badly, the opposition was overwhelming, and they would opt out. And so one woman in particular, she was like, I'm not going to finish my book proposal. I'm not going to finish my screenplay. I'm never writing another op-ed, and I'm never going on TV or radio again. Like I had this epiphany right then, and I thought, you know what? If we don't figure this out, the loudest and the meanest are going to be the only people left controlling the public narrative and thus writing history. And that really was gnawing at me. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do a big investigative piece about it. I'm going to write about it. I'm going to put it on the radio. And it just grew and grew and grew. And so I went to Kickstarter, which was a harrowing experience. I'm sure plenty of you in the audience have done a Kickstarter. I think it's interesting and cool because it makes you refine your topic really well. It makes you get really good at talking about it because you have suddenly 700 people to answer to hold you accountable. But I got funding through Kickstarter and then through a couple of other private donors, and off and rolling. And I moved into production in March. My director of photography is here, right over there. She's waving in the front row behind the bar. And so we are really mobile, and we travel all around. And it initially was kind of focused on the U.S., but suddenly stories were coming in from everywhere, and it's really a global issue. I mean, I personally think it's a public health crisis the more I get into it. And it was going to be a 90-minute doc, and then I turn it into episodes because I just really couldn't put like Facebook bullying of a teen over a prom dress and revenge porn that resulted in a suicide in the same breath. And so I split them up into episodes by topic. And, a lot of people were like, I really want you to have a safe space to really, decompress between all this. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. I worked on a crime beat. It's all good, blah, blah. Oh, my God. Yeah. And then, the Kickstarter was live 15 minutes, and I got a death threat. And that was in November, and I haven't gone 9 days without one since. And I've even started to categorize them, like, that's a light death threat versus, like, a real one. And I try to laugh them off because they're ridiculous and painful otherwise. But it's important, I think I don't want women not going and doing public-facing things that they really feel strongly about doing because of fear, because of what might happen, because a troll might, trolling might happen, because the backlash might be too hard, because all those things, because it's just not fair. We have the right to use social media and pursue whatever career we want with a reasonable expectation of safety, and I think that extends to our mental health too. So that's why I'm doing that. But then the one after that, Thanks. Thank you. But then after that, I'm going to do a thing about cover bands, so that'll be really fun again. I'm a big Smiths fan, so it's all about 80s cover bands, and so I'll mix it up a little bit. But this has already, I think, changed my life a lot. Just the way I use social media, the way I talk to other people, the way I connect with other people even. It used to just be like, yeah, give me a card, we'll connect sometime, we'll do this. Now I'm like, tell me what you're working on. How are you? How is this? I will follow you on social media, but now, if I follow you on social media, I'm going to protect you, and if people are mean, I will be nice to you. I'm a very different person on social media, and I'm a little more hyper vigilant now because I've now seen the ass end of the internet in such a weird way.
Well, people can't even get a promotion without having trolls go after them for getting a promotion and being successful. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. So now, Julia, you're working on some things too.
Well, this film. That's really it. Yeah, I'm working on this film. I've been working on it for so long, but now it's really sort of come together. I have a script that I like and that a lot of people like, and I feel I still have another draft to do. I want to shoot it in a month next summer in July. It has to be shot in the summer because there's certain weather things that have to happen, and parts of it take place at the Botanic Garden, and certain things have to be in bloom and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I feel like I'm throwing myself into this, and I am exploring all different ways of doing it, but, and I have a producer in LA who's produced a lot of stuff. He's a big producer, but, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. It's all at the beginning stages. But I think I want to do it as a low-budget feature using Chicago actors. Like, I can't believe the actors in this town.
That's everybody.
Like, I go to the theater.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible. Like, I don't understand how these people aren't household names, and it just seems crazy to think. I mean, it's very hard because the film industry is so star-driven, and budgets are so correlated with what kind of name power that people have. But I feel like the talent is here. I mean, like, it's completely here. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do. I haven't formally said that, but that's really where my heart is leaning.
And are you going to direct it as well?
And I'll direct it, yeah. So I wanted, the whole idea was for me to see if I could, if I'm good at it, if I like it, and then see what that holds for me in the future for my career. So, yeah.
Yay!
That's
Congratulations!
Awesome. I'm so glad that you said that, because I also believe that people are talented here, and I'm so sad that people come here and cut their teeth and then bail out. Right. I mean, that happens so much, and so it's exciting to me to see how much stuff is happening here right now to try to keep really talented people here, like the Stage 18 stuff, the incubator.
Well, technology is completely on the side of people being anywhere now. I mean, like, even in the time when I first had a budget made for this film. I've been working on it so long, but the first budget I had, and I've gotten to know a lot of filmmakers in town, and anyway, I had a budget made for it. This is like 4 years ago, and we already were budgeting because I had a helicopter shot that I needed for a boat that was off, like in Lake Michigan, and already when we were talking about the budget now with a drone that's like $50,
right.
and people were saying, like, now the cameras can be so small. And even sound design has changed so much. Like, you can now shoot in a store that's in business, and you're shooting in the corner of that store. And if you've mic'd your actors a certain way, you don't even have to close down that store to shoot in the store. I mean, like, it's amazing. Just since I've moved here, which is 8 years ago, it's incredible what the technology has done. And I feel like as Hollywood's becoming more fragmented, it's only good for anywhere else, because you really can shoot anywhere. I mean, you don't really have to be on a studio. You used to have to be in studios because you had to control the light, you had to control the sound. And now technology's come up so much, you really can shoot in your house. You really can shoot on the street, and you can make the sound great.
You really can shoot with your iPhone or your
iPhone.
Samsung.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's good news for places like Chicago and filmmakers in Chicago. I don't think you really have to be. Anyway, so says me, who knows so much.
And the other thing that's so great is there are so many different ways to get there's so many ways to get an audience, whether it's online, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Amazon. It's not just, you don't have to get approval from the studios and the establishment. You can make something and it could actually be profitable.
Well, that's possibly the part I don't know about at all. I have to say,
make some money. Go make some money.
I don't. The whole distribution part of it just seems like terrifying and a maze, and I don't understand it. But I'm hoping to connect with people who do understand that part of it.
Were you about to say something? I felt like I was about to cut you off.
Well, it's probably better that you did, because that brought up a tangent that I would like to go on for like a second.
Yes.
Are you guys okay with a tangent? Can we do a tangent? Are we good with okay, let's do a tangent.
What is so awesome is that I think, like, the digital world and social media has totally democratized media, and so that if you have something to say, if you have a piece of art to put into the world, it is relatively easy to do so without having bajillions of dollars. And yet, I think there is still, and we got to band together and fight this, because I still think there are folks that hold on to, like, needing to look legit on their set. Hand to God, you guys, I know someone who bought PVC pipe, spray painted the crap black, and, like, built it out around his DSLR just to, like, look legitimized. on his set. Like, he wanted to not look like an amateur to his actors. I was like, you make kick-ass films. Why would you think that?
It's like stuffing your bra. Somebody's going to eventually find out that it is stuffed.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Here's my theory. I think it's like, when you see like a giant monster truck and we go, overcompensation. I think it's that. I think there's like an overcompensation piece attached to it because like and especially because so much of my work crosses over into journalism, I like low profile stuff. I mean, right now I'm working on a project documenting, I'm talking to women, not entirely women, but I'm Syrian refugees and particularly women around food scarcity, and I'm about to do a lot of travel for that. And I don't want a big honking camera with me. I want to look, because there's certain countries you go to, you want to be like, I'm just a tourist with a camera. No journalism here. No. You don't need to look at my notes. We're good. And you want to like do that. And I think that's cool. I mean, I like that you can I put stuff on the radio all the time that I've gotten on my iPhone all the time, and it's fine audio. But I still think we need to shake that and not have this idea that just because you don't have like the big blue box truck rented in front of your set doesn't mean you're not legitimate. Like, it's about the work. And I think we still need to shake that one piece that like our set needs to look fancy. It doesn't at all. It can be in a store where that
does not need to look fancy. Yeah, no. I'm already on board with you.
Well, and I'm curious, with the different ways that we can communicate and tell stories, you're both authors, you're both comedians, you both do public speaking. Like, how does the story change depending on how you're telling it, whether it's with film or just your voice? I mean, how does it change?
Oh yeah, it's completely different mediums. Yeah.
And you're one of our you're like a Twitter expert. Oh, well, not Twitter, but like social media expert. So there are a lot of things that translate really well if you're writing it in a novel, but how do you make it funny on Twitter? Or how do you communicate ideas differently? And so I'm curious, like, since it's been such a quick, fast learning curve, like, what are ways that you use to be more communicative and funnier
on social media?
Yeah.
Well, if you've ever heard me talk about social media, roll your eyes now because you've heard this story. But my grandfather is 100, and he's still with it and awesome, and he's my good buddy. And he can't hear you, but I'll tell him that you applauded. When Twitter and Facebook first really started to happen, he was like, and this man has farmed his whole life in rural Louisiana. He was like, darling, what is a tweet? Should I go like get one of them or rent it? Or what do we do about that? And he asked earnestly, I mean, it would be easy to be like, no, Grandpa, please don't be tweeting. But he asked earnestly, and I wanted to tell him. And so I showed him Sears and Craftsman on Twitter and Facebook, because grandpas love Sears, and they love tools. So I showed him a brand he knows. And he saw a customer service issue being resolved from a mail order piece that was like missing a part that went in like, you sons of bitches, you didn't bring me like 4 number 5 screws. And they were like, hi there, give us your invoice number, and we'll overnight one to you. And it worked out really quickly. And he was like, I have been waiting for us to get back to this for a long time. And I was like, back to this? What do you mean? He was like, this is the same as when like you knew your grocer and your banker and your auto mechanic and all that, and a human being was going to hear you out even if you didn't get your way. You knew that a transference of information and understanding happened. It's a return to the person-to-person business model. And I was like, like harps and angels and lights. Joan of Arc light hit me. And that was such a Joan of Arc, like what an epiphany, right? And that became this North Star for me for everything I've done on social media, because it's not, gone are the days of like barking down the mountain as like journalist with a capital J and working for this big news organization or blah, blah. Like, it's not that. It's a two-way thing. I mean, it used to be like I wrote Judy Blume a letter when I was a kid, and she wrote me back, and I was like, oh, shit. That was a big deal. But then now, if you're not on social media, like, I think your people want access to you. And if they don't have it, I think there's an expectation that it's a conversation, not a lecture or a speech. So, he's telling secrets. Nothing. I like your glasses. I think we like have the same glasses manufacturer.
Oh, really?
I've been looking at this.
I do like yours.
Because I think we have the same kind of side piece.
Oh,
nice. We can check out after, and then we can do a little.
This has got to be a thing.
Add it to the sponsorship to the
like,
festival.
I can't look at my glasses without my glasses.
I know, I'm in the same. I'm in the same boat. That's a thing.
I'm like, why can't I see this? Well, I just got completely off all social media. This in the last 3 months.
Did the trolls make you do it? Because I will get them.
No, it's a complicated story, but it did involve sort of a stalker and me sort of just wondering what my relationships with all these people were and how much it distracted me from what I wanted to do. So it was a sort of dark night of the soul where I was like, well, what am I trying to do? Like, and I feel like, I don't know, my life seems really good without it. I think it's because of my ADD that social media is not good for me. Like, I can go places now with my brain that and I know people who do a lot of social media and who are brilliant thinkers and writers and do it all. But I'm not completely set on this because I might go back to it. But I feel like for me, for the kind of things I'm trying to think about and the kind of art, I guess, I hate talking like that, but that I'm trying to create, it's better for me to not be in touch with the world or have the world be in touch with me either. But it is a new world, like, for me. It is like, it's very cut off.
Well, it's nice. You give your brain space. Your brain probably really likes that space.
Well, no, like, I can't believe how just looking at my phone to see what's on Twitter took up, I don't know, because I didn't monitor myself, but I think it took up at least an hour a day. Yeah. And it's really interesting because, like, for the first month, I would pick up my phone and look at it and realize I had nothing to look at. I just look at my phone. And then I realized, I could be thinking, like, it was a real...
That hour could be your power hour.
Exactly. No, and so I've been really enjoying it. So anyway, I listened to you, and I totally agree with everything that you're saying. And also, I like my life, too. Yeah. I like my non-social media life.
Point and counterpoint. So I kind of want to be selfish, and I just want to keep talking to these ladies. But I do realize there's an audience out here, and you're very difficult to see because of the blinding spotlight. But I'm going to try to get a little bit closer and see if there are questions out there. So just make a lot of yes. Yeah, so do you have a working title?
My
film is called Spring.
My film does not have a name yet because I'm hoping that someone's going to say something in an interview that is so great that it names itself.
That'll happen.
It will happen.
Especially your kind of project. Yeah.
That's what I'm counting on. And in the meantime, like the second that happens, I'm going to go buy the domain and get the Twitter account and all that. But in the meantime, I don't know what it's called. I'll come up with it.
The horse with no name. The project with no name. Yeah. Okay. More questions. Yes, right here. So the question was about working with a writing partner.
I've worked with so many writing partners, and I almost always loved it. Not always, but most, I would say 80% of the time, it's been fantastic. And it's such a great way to force yourself to write because you have this other person there. I've worked with really, really great people, and I really want to do that again. Like, I have to say, one of my favorite things in my career has been working collaboratively, writing in particular. Even on shows, like I worked on Desperate Housewives for a year on the writing staff, and that show I thought was really terrible. And it was still interesting. It was still fun. The writers were fun, and it was, that was actually mostly harrowing. But on Sex and the City, it was really fun. It was really fun to write on that show. It was really fun to be in the room and hatch those stories. And I love when you connect with somebody and you have a similar point of view and you really can go. It's just a great thing. I hope to do that again.
I used to live across the hall in New York from the guy that did hair on Sex and the City, so you can see my hair in many. Because he was like, "You have nothing to do today. You're not writing. Come stand here and drink fake champagne and get paid $50 or whatever." So you can see the back of my head in a few of those episodes. I wonder if it's one you wrote. Maybe. I have also written with collaborators, and I also loved it. If it's one other person, it's really hard. But the room, especially when I was working on sketch comedy shows through Second City and a couple of other improv stages here in town, I really enjoyed it, and it felt like play to just like have a room of people and be the problem is you got to capture it, and that was always the trick for us because we'd be like farting around so much and cracking ourselves up and be like, let's hope somebody wrote that down, right? So we got in the habit of just recording it, or at least recording the audio. But I think it's fun, and I think it's useful to. There's a great thing on YouTube that Steven Johnson does. It's called something like Where Ideas Come From, and it's like a whiteboard, and he's drawing as he's talking, but it's all about the collision of ideas, and I think that's so apparent in a writing collaboration, but especially around comedy, because it's so many big ideas, like you've got it in your head for a long time, and then suddenly someone will say something, you'll be like, that's that thing, boom, and there it is, right? So I think that matters. I think it's powerful.
Cool. So that's an A to that. We can take one more.
Rapid fire, a cut 2 or 3.
Yeah, somebody in the back. Is there anybody in the back? No, I'm not being mean to the front, but is there anybody in the back? Because I can't really see back there. There's not. Okay.
Wait, there's one. Wait, one.
Oh wait, one in the back.
Fire it.
Putting God Said Ha on film. Oh, well, that was really exciting film to make, in particular, because, first of all, it was before digital film. Can you believe that? Oh my God, I'm 1,000 years old. And my friend Quentin Tarantino produced it, and he was with me on the set the whole time, and we had 3 cameras, and we had to coordinate when the cameras were pulling out and the film magazines were changing, and one of them caught on fire because it was I mean, there were so many crazy things that happened on that shoot, but it was really fun, really fun.
I would expect working with Quentin Tarantino, something is going to catch on fire at some point, right?
we kept a little part of it anyway, yeah.
And the last question right here.
Oh, Letting Go of God. Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm somewhat daunted by it.
Where the question is about
Yes.
whether or not Julia is daunted by the idea of directing.
I am, and I am also feel like I did about the Groundlings. Like, I'm not really good at this. I don't have a lot of experience doing it, although I did, direct stage films, and I did a short film too for the Seattle Film Festival. And I've been on sets for years. But so I don't know, but I feel like I could be good at it. I don't know if I could be great at it, but I think I can be good at it. I have that same feeling. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to turn out that way, but I feel that way. And just this weekend, I made a friend who was shooting his first film in Columbus, Indiana, and I went and did the first day. Oh, Kogonada and on the set, on the crew. Oh wow! Oh my God! It was the first day, and it was so exciting. And I just did a little part, and I was looking at it differently. Like, could I do this? Could I, be the director? And I thought, yes, I could.
Yes, you can.
Yes, I could. So I don't know. We'll see if that's real, but okay, good.
And I think we have to wrap it up or I'm going to get in trouble.
I'm on the other side now. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks.